coming to you live now. You know, he put this on a Facebook post, and he's had like 120,000 views on it in about 10 hours. Bishop E.W. Jackson, I also believe is going to run for U.S. Senate in 2018. Hasn't announced. That's my opinion, and I'm never wrong about this stuff. E.W., good to have you with us, man.
It's great to be with you again, John.
Okay, so E.W., I'm a football fan. I love football. I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. I was really upset this weekend, as many people were. First of all, I was upset that my team didn't come out of the tunnel against Seattle. Bud Adams, the original owner, would be spinning in his grave. So would Bum Phillips. So would Sid Gilman. So would the great Oilers coaches of my day and the great players. They'd be spinning right now. Didn't come out of the tunnel. So I got to deal with that. And now we get two teams going to England for a game. They stand for the Queen, but don't stand for the flag. Our calls, EW, are running 99% outrage over what is going on in the NFL and not standing for the national anthem. What say you?
Well, first of all, John, thanks for having me as always. And look, I think the people, I was listening to the clips that you were playing before you brought me on. I think these people do not understand the depth of passion of the average American for our country. That we understand that the freedom that we enjoy has been paid for by the blood of patriots who've gone before us, and that there are people still standing watch every single day to make sure that we remain free. And so to cavalierly say, oh, well, you know, taking a knee during the national anthem and the flag, that's not intended to be a disrespect to the flag or the country. It is disrespectful to the flag or the country, and we don't like it. And I think Americans are going to be responding. I think the NFL is going to pay a very, very dear price for allowing itself to go down this road. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, what are they protesting, John? Look, if you read any of the data about police brutality, yes, I know the media plays up episodes, but there is no widespread or epidemic of police brutality against black people. Now, I know that flies in the face of the narrative, but that's just a fact. So what are they even protesting?
I guess, I mean, it started with Kaepernick, who was protesting that, what you just said, and then a couple other people started not standing up. Then the president made the comments. Now, you might be offended by those comments, and he did use the word SOB, but here's the reality, EW. This is what a lot of people are saying right at their kitchen table. This is what a lot of fathers and moms are just saying. Maybe not those exact words or maybe not the B word, but they're kind of saying the same thing. It's like, I believe that people know there's something wrong with America. And so the tearing down of monuments, it's as simple, it shouldn't matter. The tearing down of the flag and not standing up at the anthem. Average people know there's something going wrong in the country. They don't feel good about it. Maybe they can't put their finger on it, but they know it's wrong. And they know it's not the values they grew up with, and the ground is shifting under them. And so they looked at these people, you know, look, they make a lot of money, and they look at them and they're saying, you know, what a bunch of selfish little children when our kids are dying overseas and they can't even stand up for the national anthem. You know, go protest there. As soon as the game is over, you get out of the locker room, go get a megaphone, stand in a soapbox, stand on the hood of your car, and protest your heart out. But when we unfurl the flag and people are dying, stand the hell up. Am I wrong or right?
Look, John, they don't need a soapbox and a megaphone. They can pay for literally millions of dollars in airtime on TV and anywhere else they want to say whatever they want. These are not poor people. They are. Look, LeBron James is worth $500 million. He's probably going to be a billionaire by the time his career is over. I mean, these are not people who need to use the platform of the NFL because they have nowhere else to turn. They've got plenty of resources, and they choose to put it in our faces. Here's what bothers me, and nobody wants to say this, but I believe this. I believe, John, these people hate our country. They won't say it. They don't have the courage to admit it, but they really, most of them, they don't like America. And so it's easy for them to disrespect the flag and the country. It's just like, I don't know whether you heard this guy, Shannon Sharp, on Undisputed say one time when Skip Bayless said, it's God bless America. They were having a discussion about something, and he got highly offended by him saying, God bless America. I don't believe that. You shouldn't be saying, nobody should say, God bless America. I don't believe God blesses America. God blesses everybody. I mean, he was offended by somebody saying, God bless America. I think this is the Jeremiah Wright crowd. They don't want God to bless America. They say, GD America. And this is what bothers me. It's not just misguided. I think they're expressing their true sentiment about the country. I've said it before, John. I'll say it again. I just wish they'd leave. I mean, I just wish they'd go live somewhere where they think they can find the social justice that is lacking, that they claim to be lacking in America. And I don't even know what they're talking about. Social justice, systemic racism. I mean, it's so ephemeral and so vague that it's everywhere if you want to see it, and it's nowhere if you don't know what they're talking about.
All right, so EW, you agree with me. I said this yesterday, and I had at least one caller that took exception to it. But you agree with me that these people hate America, right? Because if you don't hate your country, why would you not stand up for that 90 seconds, right? It's 90 seconds. It's a minute and a half. And I told the story to my audience, Bishop Jackson, yesterday. The first game my father took me to, I was 7 years old, and it was New York Mets at Shea Stadium against the Astros. It was 1965. I was 7. And it was in August, and both teams were like a 90 games out, right? It's a meaningless game on the middle of August. And I remember they played the national anthem. I had an Astro hat on my father got me, and he made me take off the hat, put my hand over my heart. He made me recite it with him, and he explained the whole thing to me, how the national anthem is played before major sporting events in the United States because it's a chance to honor our country, those that have died for us. And I was 7. And my father was a blue-collar worker. He was a union guy, right? Just blue-collar guy, high school ed. But, man, that anthem to him, I mean, he served in Korea. That anthem to him was a big deal. And so that's my generation. Doesn't anybody teach that now? Is that gone?
Well, you know, right, and it means it's a big deal to me. And that flag is a big deal to me. And it's a big deal not only to every veteran. It's a big deal to every American who understands that freedom is not free, that we are the land of the free because we are the home of the brave. And, you know, when you have a generation of people who are told in public schools we're no longer going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, we're not going to teach American history unless we're telling you how bad America is, we enslaved the blacks, we killed the Indians, you know, we exploited, we are imperialists, if that's all you're going to do, we've sown the wind, we're now reaping the whirlwind. We've sown all this anti-American sentiment. I had a military guy in my church several years ago came to me and said, you know, I read People's History of the United States, he said, and I had to struggle with staying in the military because it made me hate my country. He said, it wasn't until I came to your church and began to hear the truth about America that I started to come out of the fog that created. Well, you just think, you got a generation of people, John, who've been taught this way, and we're now seeing the results.
We're with the Bishop, E.W. Jackson, talking about the NFL. He's got a Facebook post, a Facebook video on his page. You might want to check it out on the E.W. Bishop Jackson Stand Facebook page. And E.W., it's gotten like 130,000 looks in like a half a day?
Yeah,
it's a big number.
It's getting about 6,000 to 7,000 new views every hour. I mean, so the thing really has gone. It's really long, so I'm kind of surprised. But I just had to, John, get it out there and say what I feel, particularly as an American of African descent. You know, I don't use the term African American because I'm not African, but I am an American whose ancestors came from Africa and whose ancestors came here as slaves. I just wanted people to understand I love my country, and I am grateful to be here. I'm grateful that in the sweep of history, it turned out that maybe by what people consider to be evil means, my ancestors came here. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deny that. But, you know, history is complicated, John, and every continent in the world has been changed. The populations have changed by conquest, by slavery, by subjugation, by wars. This is just the way the world is. I'm just grateful that I'm here, and I wanted people to know that I and many other Americans who happen to be black love our country.
I tell you what, that's a powerful message. Let's get to the Alabama Senate race. I'm leaving for Montgomery this afternoon. I'll be at the Judge Roy Moore victory watch party, if you want to call it that, tonight. And then I'll be live from Montgomery for 2 days. Moore ahead now in all of the latest polls that have come out. We think he's going to win. But I've been following this race, EW, and I'll tell you why I think it is so critical, and then we'll get your thoughts on it. I've been following this race because, number one, we backed Judge Moore early. But secondly, I really think that tonight is the night the movement transcends its leader. Now, Donald Trump right now is the leader of this movement that we have. No question about it. He took it. He ran with it. He got elected president. But I think that any leader needs to be held accountable by his base. And I think a big Judge Roy Moore victory tonight, after the Mitch McConnell swamp monsters basically duped the president into going down there and doing a rally, I think it's going to be a wake-up call for him. And I think he's going to realize that, you know what, there's no Park Avenue. There's no I can shoot somebody and they're still with me. Those days are over. That's a myth. I think what he's going to find out tonight is we're not going away, and we're going to keep electing people that are going to stand firm and tall and true to what we believe in, and we want to drain the swamp. And you're not going to do that by re-electing an appointed lobbyist, Luther Strange. What are your thoughts on this race?
Well, first of all, John, elections and candidates and people who hold office do so temporarily, but a movement can be permanent. It can continue. And I think this is what we need to understand. President Trump is just the first step in an important movement to turn this country, to turn the ship of state and ultimately the culture of the country back in the right direction. And so I think it's good that the president understands that he does not control this movement, that this movement transcends, I like the way you put that, this movement really transcends him. Now, I've been following Judge Roy Moore for years. I mean, since, he was fired for refusing to take down the Ten Commandments, took a principled stand, and then the people elected him and put him back in office anyway. So I think the president is going to be much happier with a Judge Roy Moore as a U.S. Senator than he will be with this Mr. Strange. And let me add this. Mitch McConnell is not President Trump's friend, and he's never going to be. He just isn't. And so the president needs people who are going to fight Mitch McConnell and are going to stand up against him, and he needs to stand up against him because what he needs to do is get rid of the filibuster. We've already got 52 senators. Let's make the most of what we've got. And Mitch McConnell, as far as I'm concerned, he's a problem that the president is going to have to solve.
Well, you've already seen it. They're never going to get rid of the 50-vote cloture rule, Bishop Jackson, because that's what they hide behind. It's like hiding behind mommy's apron. The minute they get rid of that, they have to go on the record on all kinds of stuff that will just put them in a more difficult position in raising money with their donors. As long as they can throw up their arms and say, hey, we don't have the 60 votes, we can't get there, they don't have to go on the record for a lot of the votes that would make them and their donor base uncomfortable. And as we find out, going to D.C., many of these people in the swamp exist for one reason. They're a complete slave to the money and their donors and the lobbyists and K Street and Wall Street. And so they go back to their constituents, they lie, then they go to Washington, they do whatever they want, and then they pull a Scott Ridgel and throw up their arms and say, well, it's the best I could do, and the next hill is the one I'm going to die on. But, of course, EW,
John,
that
don't
hill.
The status and the prestige and the perks and the privileges of, in effect, standing at the top of the heap over the people as opposed to trying to serve the people.
That's exactly what it is, right? They get all the perks. They get the train ride to the Capitol. They get the dinners there. They get the offices. They get the big staffs that, fawn over them. Look, I'm there. I mean, there's a lot of House members that I would not put in that category. Many of them actually in Virginia, but there's a lot I would. And that's it. They want all the perks and their staff and their car rides. My former congressman, I found this to be unbelievable. My former congressman in Georgia, Tom Price, used to be my doctor. I coach his son in Little League Baseball. Great guy, great family, great conservative. I mean, he gets to be Secretary of Human Services, and he's flying around in private jets, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars because he can. And then it gets exposed, and he's a good guy. It gets exposed, and he's like, well, I shouldn't have done that. He took a $30,000 private jet from Washington to Philadelphia. That is a $90 ride on on Amtrak for an hour and a half. I mean, it's if he goes on in first class, it's a $90. I've done it. You can get from D.C. to Philadelphia in 90 minutes, and he spends $30,000 flying around in a private jet.
Well,
they get there.
It's easy to spend other people's money, isn't it?
You got it.
That's why our founding fathers wanted us to have limited government, because they understood that there's a corrupting power in government. And if people get into it and they realize, wow, I can pretty much do whatever I want to do, I can spend as much money as I want to spend, I can really live the high life, even though I haven't earned enough to live as a wealthy person, I can do it in politics. And this is what attracts a lot of people. You know, it's what gets a Harry Reid, becomes a U.S. senator with no money, and suddenly leaves as a multimillionaire. How does that work? Well, we know how it works. It's corruption.
Well, it is unbelievable. And the other prime example, I mean, you know, things didn't turn out very good for him, but Denny Hastert was a high school wrestling phys ed teacher and coach, got to Congress. His net worth was $25,000. He had to sleep in his office, which many congressmen, by the way, to this day still do because they can't pay for housing. He came in, he had a net worth of $25,000, becomes speaker, whole story. Comes out, $175 million he's worth. And his salary is $180,000. I mean, like, how do you go from $25,000 to $180 million? I mean, like, serving the people.
He's a good, John, he's excellent at saving, isn't he? Yeah, I mean,
you got that right.
You know,
you got that right.
Look, the Clintons, you could go down, and particularly, it's true. This is not a matter of party. This is a matter of predisposition. Republicans and Democrats are all guilty of it. They enjoy what it means to hold these offices and forget what it means to be servants of the people. That's what this is supposed to be about. And so, look, I hope Judge Roy Moore, I think he's going to win. And I think the president will be glad in the end that he did, because I think Strange will be more. He would be more like a Tillis. We fought hard in North Carolina to get Tillis elected, and as far as I'm concerned, he's been a zero.
A zero. These guys get there, and they basically become a tool of Mitch McConnell, because if you play the game and follow McConnell's rules, you get the perks, you get the treat, you get the goodie bag, and it's really gross. I'm out of time. I want to thank you, Bishop E.W. Jackson, for being with us. If people want to go to your video, E.W., where do they go?
E.W. Jackson SR for senior. E.W. Jackson SR on Facebook, and they'll find it very easily.
E.W. Jackson SR. Boy, I do hope you run for U.S. Senate in Virginia. I think you bring a lot to the table. So as you make your decision, I'm in favor of it. E.W., thanks for being with us. Don.